first off, happy birthday, happy album release, happy new era as well. That's your vivarium. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And actually an amazing thing as well. This is your studio. This is your house, isn't it? This is where.
Yeah. I mean, it's always kind of full circle when you're talking about the music and the place where the music is made. So that's, I like showing people this is kind of my lair.
How do you feel right now? This week, it's your birthday week, it's album release week. Are you able to relax a little bit at times like these? Or are you still kind of overanalyzing everything and thinking about everything?
Relaxing is really not a part of my lifestyle choice. I'm pretty intense all the time. I immediately, as soon as I put out one record, want to start making the next one. I am just really stoked with the way that people are receiving the record. I think, it's like when someone ask how you're doing and you can tell that by the time you're answering, they've tuned out and stopped listening. Sometimes that's the same way when you release a record. People they turn it on, they hear it, but they're not listening. They're not digging into the lyrics, the melodies, the sound choices, the instrumentation, the arrangements. And for this record, I feel like the album itself has been really respected, and people are really taking it in and noticing the hard work and dedication me and my collaborators have put into it. And so it's just making me feel really good and again, inspiring me to make the next one.
In the first few seconds of the album, you ask, will they play you on the station? I will play you on the station till the day I die. So don't worry about that. In Hate Me, you say, go ahead. You can say that I've changed. And, you've been through an enormous amount of challenges in the last number of years. It would be unfathomable that you wouldn't go through some sense of change. Have you been able to, because personally, this is something that I had to do. Have you been able to embrace change and look on it as something that's exciting, even though, life might throw at you something that just leads you in a direction that you didn't think it would?
I mean, I think growing pains never stop. We kind of, we all, I guess, acknowledge the physical growth, but never the kind of spiritual, emotional, growth that never stops until the end of our lives. We're always going to be growing, hopefully. And I think anytime that you don't grow, it's out of fear. And so, yes, changes, like everybody else, they can be, kind of intimidating, but I've learned to kind of welcome it because it's always paid off to shape me in some way that I could have never done on my own without kind of being pushed into the deep end and forced to swim.
And something you said recently is that, every day you're a brand new person. And it's actually something that I say a lot because I feel like maybe it's the way to get through life, just because I feel like it means that will always be somewhere else. And I'm not striving to be one person or a certain version of myself because I know that it's going to change in a second anyway. And like I said, you've been through an enormous amount of challenges, and the loss of your home was obviously a massive one. And, the whole world sort of joined in on that with you, but also everybody else that was affected by that. But the one thing that survived is that piece of equipment right behind you. And
yeah, I know that's so kind of cosmic too, that this is all from my studio in Malibu. And really all I had left was music. And I think one thing that I really learned about that is how to celebrate and how to honor kind of detachment without feeling jaded. That's a really tough balance to find. How do I be fluid and flexible? And my dad says life is a series of adjustments. How do I do that with still being able to really love without fear? Really I think dedicate yourself. I had dedicated myself to making 3 records and they had burned up on my computers and journals that I had in the house. And that was really, I guess, when I learned how to, accept, things that no longer served me anymore.
Majorly. And, equipment is a physical thing, but it also carries the music that's been made on it with it in many ways. I went to Studio 606 and Dave Grohl showed me the Neve console there. And it really was one of the first moments where I really saw a piece of equipment like that and saw beyond just the physical side of it. I saw memories, I saw potential, seeing, Stevie Nicks' name written across it. When you're making music now, on that equipment behind you, does it carry with it that special importance because it is something that came from something that was so difficult as well?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at this, I really think about making Dead Pets, because when I made Dead Pets, I had this in my garage, literally. I would stay out there all night and self-produce, record my own vocals, write the music, arrange the tracks. And that was just, I mean, that experimentation, I had just no boundaries. And also there was no expectation. And that's why I made the record for free, is because I really, it's then there was no pressure. It was really for me. And then making Malibu, you know, right after, which was such a 180 from that record. And then doing some of the She Is Coming album, and now Plastic Hearts. It's chapters of my life.
Majorly. And throughout your life, and you've, you know, been, you know, in this sort of world for a long time, you didn't have the most conventional upbringing, but throughout that, you've always maintained this like level of humanity, which I think is incredibly admirable, but also so endearing. How have you kind of grappled with, I guess, allowing that yourself to have that transparency with people? Because it must be difficult. And where do you kind of sit easier? Do you sit a lot more comfortable in a place where you guard a lot of stuff off, or by letting people in and allowing them to, I guess, get to know you better and not ask so many questions in their head?
Well, you know, I think one thing that I've had to be careful of, and one thing I've learned the hard way, is you can't have the same expectation or standards for other people that you really have for yourself. I really say what I mean what I say. You can't expect that from everybody else, but you don't also want to live, you know, guarded. You want to stay open. And I think that I found a really good balance of having a lot of trust and a lot of belief, and you know, the goodness of people and the good intentions. But I've also been burned from that too, but I just wouldn't want to close up. I mean, one thing I've been reading, a book that I actually gave it to all my artists when I was on The Voice. It's called The Untethered Soul. And it says, the best way to stay open is to never close. And like, that's so simple, but I think even when you get hurt, like just staying kind of open, and that's why my artistry, you know, in my songwriting, I just really tell my story, tell the truth. It's not very abstract. It's all pretty literal, you know. I don't really leave much to the imagination.
The relationships take a beating on this album.
They really do. Again, that's like, I think, you know, one is the loneliest number for a reason. And I feel less lonely when I'm writing music like this, and people write to me and tell me how they've related to it and how it reflects their story too. So it's helpful for all of us.
And we've got all that brand new music, but at the same time, we have you kind of taking on songs that we've heard before. And, you know, Irish people can be a bit begrudging in some ways sometimes, especially when people touch things that are quite treasured to us. But I have never seen so much love for an interpretation of an Irish song, Zombie, than your version of it. The absolute, like, just Twitter the next day in Ireland was just in love. What made you want to take that on? Because for us, it's a song that not only is, you know, from an icon, Dolores O'Riordan and the Cranberries, but at the same time, you know, it talks about our history, 1916, and to hear you singing that. So what made you want to kind of take that song on?
Well, and then the Cranberries, you know, acknowledging it and writing that it did, you know, it honored Dolores, but also they liked my interpretation of the song. It just meant a lot. That's always something that you're wondering if you're going to get acknowledged from the originator, or how they're going to feel about the interpretation. So that made me super proud. I think it's reflective of everything that we've really seen this year. You know, I know that it's kind of, it's obviously an important song to Ireland, but I felt like it was reflective of everything that I was going through here in the States also. And I just felt like it was very timely, even though it was a cover and maybe an older song. It just felt like it was super right now. I just felt like lyrically, which is what I always hear first in a song. I always ask people what they hear. Do you hear the melodies? Are you attracted to the lyrics? Or what are you attracted to? And the lyrics of that song just really kind of resonated with me right now.
Yeah, they're incredibly, incredibly powerful. And then, you know, when you released Midnight Sky, trust me, it was like getting a gift. I was absolutely just like, oh my God. And then you went and released, you know, another version with Stevie Nicks. And it was like discovering something about that gift that you were given 2 months ago. And you're like, oh my God, I didn't know it did this. Incredible. Was it the intention from the beginning to have Stevie on that? Or was it the release and then she hopped on board right after?
Well, she gave me, you know, she kind of passed that torch and blessed it from the beginning, because
Mhm.
we sampled Edge of 17, and
Yeah.
I reached out to her and asked her for her blessing, and she gave it and said, "You can borrow from me anytime." And when she said that, I was thinking, I wonder if she would ever want to really merge this, because the original
Yeah.
idea was, oh, maybe we do a remix and we kind of copy and paste the songs together. But having her go in and recut and cut Midnight Sky, and like, I've sang Stevie Nicks lyrics my whole life, but her actually singing mine, that was just the biggest honor. And so, it still trips me out that I have a Stevie Nicks feature on my album.
It's insane. And Billy Idol and teaming up with Dua, absolutely gorgeous all throughout. I've loved
Yeah, yeah.
loved. To finish up, Glastonbury last year was just insane. But I also know at the same time you were incredibly nervous about it. You were really, really bricking it, as we would say here, before you went on stage. Do you feel like overcoming that has kind of set you up now to kind of be and do whatever you want to do?
Anytime I'm scared, I literally say, if I can do Glastonbury, I can do that. It's like, it's literally where I have the threshold of fear. Like,
Yeah.
that is one of the scariest things I've ever done.
Well, you absolutely nailed it across the board.
It's so much pressure, and like the grounds you're on. I mean, it's just the amounts of people, and people are like camping out, and they're spending, it's like one of the biggest honors you can have as an artist. So I was breaking it.
You were breaking it, but you got through it. And trust me, this album is everything I wanted it to be and more. Miley, thank you so much for having a chat with us.